Okay, so I just wanted to go through with you guys like why I became a gardener, how I got into horticulture, how I chose horticulture as a career, how I realised it was a viable career option throughout my life. Slowly but surely I got there, and just basically just explain like my story. Is that really cringy? That's really cringy. Not my story, but like what triggered, what helped me realise that gardening would definitely be a viable career and not just something your mum and dad did at the weekend. When I was younger, I did work with my parents sometimes in the garden. I know they bought a new house and we had a lot of work to do to it, so I was sort of involved in that. I mean, they did do gardening, it was mostly my dad mowing the lawn, and I sort of helped clear up and tidy up, and I really liked being outside. And then throughout like my younger years, I would play outside. Me and my best friends, we were always outside. I was outside every Friday because we used to have like family friends that came around, and we'd be outside all the time doing anything, like playing outside, on bikes, anything, just outside. We were barely ever inside, especially in summer. Also growing up, my gran had like woodland available to her, so it was available to me, and we always used to go for walks in the woods, and it like exposed me to nature, exposed me to woodland and working with these tools, materials and all sorts like that. So I was definitely exposed to horticulture, but not knowing what horticulture was when I was younger. And I was definitely very outdoorsy, loved the woods, have my first pair of wellies still, but I probably don't have my first pair of shoes still. I just really enjoyed being outside. It wasn't, and also my gran, like, as you know, probably is quite good at gardening, as you've probably seen from like my Instagram and things, so I've definitely learned things from her, and she has quite a big garden, so it's like goes hand in hand. But I'm still thinking back, I don't even think I realised that was gardening. I always imagined gardening being like, oh, here's a hanging basket and I filled it with like pansies. I didn't think gardening was like just liking the outdoors. I didn't think, I don't know, that's really hard to explain, but I didn't think that those two were like necessarily hand in hand. I was also a girl guide, and that involved like working with your hands, and I really enjoyed the elements of like, you'd have to make your own washstand out of wood, and I really didn't know why I liked that, even though it was so like, it wasn't weird, it made sense because you have to make a washstand, but like everyone was like, oh, we have to go collect wood, we have to get firewood, and I was like, actually I quite like that. That was quite exciting, but I didn't want to be the one sat there going, oh, I like that bit, when everyone else sat there going, this is weird. So it didn't occur to me how much I still do obviously, love the outdoors. I still didn't put these things together. And then I went to Malay at secondary school, and I was an eco warrior, which was essentially a title given to someone who took the recycling out. And I was sort of, I was just, why didn't I see that I liked being outdoors? It's because I was never given the option to think that being outdoors was a viable career, that I wasn't thinking that a career was anything but working in an office or going to university and then, you know, choosing something from that. I had no idea that vocational studies existed. I just wasn't aware of it. And if I was, you'd be studying for like in agriculture. I didn't assume there was tree surgery. I didn't assume you could be an arborist. I didn't know you could do horticulture. I didn't know, I thought vocational studies was like plumber, electrician, carpenter. I had no idea that it involved all these other things. After Malay, I went through and just did Colliers, or like normal college, until I was like 18. I just picked subjects that I was like okay at. I didn't really know why I was picking them, but I was like an average student, so I just went for the ones that average students went to because I couldn't pick maths or anything. I did love science, hence the plants now. I did really like science, but I picked like art subjects, English, media, sort of run-of-the-mill, the generic ones. And then I had to go to university, and I sort of picked one of them and decided, yeah, okay, let's go to university. People like Colliers like might have gotten help if they were like a pro student, you know, like the top students that were like going off to like Cambridge or Oxford or looking at becoming a doctor or something. They would definitely have career advice, even though they knew what to do. Whereas because I didn't have anything to to go off, the career advisor that I never met, that I don't even know existed, would not have been able to help me in any way. I don't know, because I feel like I don't know if they would have promoted vocational studying, because definitely throughout college it was seen as like a real negative thing. If you went to, the local college was Brinsbury, and it had like really bad names for for it, and if you did 3 years at college you weren't seen as being very bright, and if you go to Brinsbury like you're not seen as being bright at all, and that it's like a secondary option because you can't attain the knowledge for the first options, and all these negative things surrounding this college. So you just don't see it as an option because you don't think of yourself having to do those things that you perceive as negative. So you're thinking, oh well, I've got to go to university because imagine if I ended up there, or imagine if I ended up studying that. But really, like, vocational studying is super hard, and horticulture especially is just an immense topic, and covering it in that 1 year is unbelievable. It's just impossible. But you don't want to be that person that sticks out like a sore thumb and heads off to Brinsbury or Plumpton or wherever and does like a vocational skills college and does the odd thing. It definitely takes guts to go to Brinsbury or to go to a place like this and study and go against the grain and not go to university. So hats off to you if you're doing an apprenticeship, or if you're doing anything like that. Is definitely the impossible. You're really challenging society by taking on different roles. Now, because I've got notes here, because I wasn't sure like exactly what I wanted to say. Like, I'm not sure how I can portray how you're not told about these options, because looking back it just makes sense, and seeing that someone's self-employed makes sense and all of that, but it really didn't in your head. It was so isolating, not knowing what to do, and you think like all these young people don't know what to do, but like it's really weird when you like can't even picture yourself being inside. It's like, oh well, if I don't want to be inside, what's left? Like, so okay, I went to university in a big city, and I lived there for 3 months. Why did I bother going? I think because I was just completely conditioned. My parents are definitely pro university at that point. I'm the oldest child, so I sort of, you know, you just have to. No one else in my family, like in my intermediate family, had been to uni yet. Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, my mum was pro it as well, so I definitely was hesitant because I didn't want to study. I chose to study media. I didn't want to study media. I thought I'd be a journalist, so I sort of kept going, and I thought, yeah, I could do that. I did English at A-level, so it did make sense. Like, I think that was the path I was headed down. I just, you know, I was very hesitant about the whole thing. I was very like anxious, not realising it was anxiety, and like stressed, and I didn't realise what I was getting myself into until I was there. And then I sort of felt worried and acted like everything was fine, because it was fine. Like, things were fine, everything was going to be fine. It's 3 years. How long is 3 years? Well, actually no, it was 4 years because there was a placement year, but like, how long is 4 years really? And it just got very messy in my head, and like things weren't working out, and lectures were awful, and the university, I'm not going to name which university, but it was like parts of it were being redone when I was there, and it's a city campus as it is, so like your lectures are in different buildings and you're like spread out all over the city. And it would take, because I lived on a campus like in halls 20 minutes from the campus of the university, sometimes getting to lectures would take like 40 minutes because you'd have to wait for other buses, take public transport. It would just take ages. So I think that decision as well really impacted my decision to leave. So I left at Christmas that year because I wasn't getting on with it. And as soon as I got back home, I was like, oh, okay, you know, this is definitely the area I thrive in. I need to be outside. I just can't continue. I don't know what to do. So then at this point, we're having a bit of a stress. We're having a bit of a meltdown. I'm not saying this in a funny way or a light-hearted way. I was very stressed. Granny came to my aid. Granny was a little saint, a little saviour, a little golden lining. She came and she just said, you don't like what you think, like you don't want to do this, do you? And this life path that you've been set to continue to do. So you have to get a job, and you can't just sit there, you have to get a job. I was like, yeah, I know, but what? So I did odds and bits, and then I was gardening with her, just to be outside, fresh air, like having someone to talk to you know, just to get through life essentially. And then her granny's hairdresser was looking for a gardener, so at this point I did have a bit of gardening experience. I had had some time off, I had time to think, and I was like, yeah, I need a job, need this. So yeah, so I spoke to the salon owner and she was happy with me, and I sort of just put my name forward and she said, yeah, go for it. And I've now been there for like 5 years. And then from that, because obviously she owns a salon, word of mouth got me a whole like roster of clients. Day to day I was really busy. So at that point I decided maybe I do like gardening, maybe. I still wasn't certain. I still thought, how do I get a qualification? How do I set this in stone? Like, is this actually what I can do as a career, or is it something that I'm just doing part-time until I become, I don't know, like I had no idea until I become an office worker. I didn't actually think gardening was a job. I just didn't, you're not exposed to these things. You're not exposed to how these National Trust gardens are landscaped and kept pristine, and how Wisley and Wakehurst and Kew and all these places are so important, and who looks after them. You just sort of imagine it is done. You don't really see the gardeners working. They're like squirreling away behind the scenes. People are so unaware as to what it takes to keep these places looking like this, and you don't realise how quickly plants grow, and like you just don't know. So I was completely unaware. So as I said, then with my full roster of clients that I'd accidentally acquired with limited gardening knowledge, I set up my own business. I had applied to lots of different places before I like filled my calendar and asked for jobs, but like still no one was hiring, because it's so hard to make it and then be able to hire people. And I was obviously not also dead set on gardening still. So anyway, at this point I thought, right, I have to set up a business if this is going to carry on. So I had £4 to my name, 4 wee pounds, and off I went and got a few tools, like secondhand. People are very generous. All my clients sort of had tools, so I sort of used them as asked, obviously, and yeah, so I just sort of set up social media, because that's really easy now. And yeah, then I started looking for qualifications, because to be a professional horticulturalist, which I then found out was a term, you have to have qualifications, which is completely understandable, because you do gain gardening skills from knowledge, but are you being taught the right thing in the first place? Is this how you're actually meant to do it? Is there a faster way that will save you time? And who do I turn to? So that was the next thing, is finding a mentor that could, because Granny had done the first bit, but she's not a professional horticulturalist, even though she could do it flawlessly, but she isn't, and I needed help. So I applied for different schemes, such as like the Work and Retrain as a Gardener scheme, and in fact that's the only scheme I applied for. And then I looked at apprenticeships, and then I looked at, none in my area, and then I looked at sort of even just being a volunteer for the National Trust, just so I had that brand name on my portfolio. I couldn't afford to do that, like I couldn't afford to volunteer. At this point I'm living in like a few different places, so things are very unsettled and very tense, and I'm finally realising that horticulture is what I want to do, and it is what I need to do, because I love being outside, and everything started to make sense. Like even for one of my art studies, I did a landscape designer, and here's me like, oh, what is this? What is horticulture? And I literally studied a landscape designer out of choice. I went against the grain and chose, everyone else did like dance, and I was like, gardening. And then I'm like, what even is gardening? Anyway, it was highly confusing. So yeah, I chose horticulture as my profession. So at this point I decided I had to go to Brinsbury and I had to get my qualifications, because I just couldn't seek out any other way. You can't really do it online. So I went for the level 3 City and Guilds diploma in horticulture, aced it with a distinction star. I can hear rounds of applause still going on, even though it was like 3 years ago. Made a good network of friends and like people. I have to say not many people continued in horticulture. I'd say there's probably like 3 or 4 of us out of a class of, did we start as like 28 or something? I mean, it was a good class size to start with, then we had people dropping out, and then we had people actually finishing the course but they didn't continue, which is like a shame. And then yeah, I don't know, there's a few of us that still work in horticulture or continue to study, which is good, but like the percentage rates are awful, and it's not Brinsbury's fault. It's like, as I said, society not teaching you that horticulture is a viable career and that it needs to be a viable career for younger people, because gardening's just going to go extinct. Like, younger people don't have the money to afford gardens, so you're not naturally taught by your parents to garden. You don't have that ingrained in you, so we need younger people to go in and see it as being a career option. But it's just not taught in schools that you can do this. It's not even, schools don't even have gardens themselves. Like, people aren't exposed to growing things, which is changing slowly, but it is. Okay, so after I gained my qualifications, I scheduled my garden maintenance to 3 days a week, and I now continue to study like garden design and different crafts. Actually, I've really expanded my business just to keep me mentally, you know, like I want to continue studying and learning, and horticulture, you don't ever stop learning. And you know, I'm earning a good salary, I enjoy my work, I have a passion for horticulture, and it's just fun. Like, it's a really good career. Learn so much and get so many more benefits and so much more enthusiasm in life from like nurturing and growing your own and enjoying it. Obviously I'm biased, but yeah. So if you're like younger and you're looking around you and all your friends are going off to university, and the more you think about it, the more expensive that seems and the more undesirable it seems, and you don't have any desire to be inside all day and you're looking for other things to do, I definitely look at vocational colleges. It doesn't make you thick, or it doesn't make you stupid, or like any of those are nice words. What you get called is not nice. It doesn't make you anything negative. You are not less of a person or less smart than the people around you because you want to choose vocational studies or look into choosing vocational studies. I urge you to sort of talk to people you know that work outside, or I mean minimal, and just go to one of these open days for the universities. That's like literally the opposite of what I'm saying. Go to these open days for the colleges, or talk to people about being an apprentice, or find a person like me, a self-employed gardener who might need part-time help to start with, just whilst you think about if you want to do it, because don't cross it off your list. I hope you enjoyed sort of like my story. I hope I said it well enough. I still don't really know like how I ended up in horticulture, even though the universe was against me. If you've enjoyed this video, and I upload really sporadically, so maybe you should click the notification bell and then you will know when I've uploaded. I do tend to post to social media, and I do have another video coming possibly this week. It's another houseplant one. I'm looking into doing more videos like this one that's like a bit more open and like pro gardening outside. Okay, so yeah, I've also got exciting things coming in the future, as I mentioned earlier, with like spin-off businesses like my carving and like craft. Monday afternoon and evening probably by the time I've uploaded this.